What if Yuji's domain expansion is going to be Benevolent Shrine or Heavenly Shrine, the domain that heals the soul? So what's a Benevolent Shrine? Well, so you can understand the Benevolent Shrine properly, let me first explain the shrine's connection between Yuji's name and the contrast between him and Sukuna. And what if I told you that Yuji and Mahito are actually two sides of the same coin? Yeah, they're the same. I'll explain that fully by the end of the video. Now, according to Jujutsu Kaisen subreddit, Yuji's last name Itadori contains the kanji for tiger and Su meaning staff. His first name Yu means eternity or permanence, and Jin means benevolence, compassion, and humanity. You see that, guys? Benevolence? According to the Jujutsu Kaisen official fanbook, Itadori is actually based on a medicinal plant. When translated, it means pain reliever, removes pain, or takes pain away. You see, Yuji's name and its meanings represent his character, as he values life and uses his strength to save people or to take their pain away. But how does this connect to the idea of his domain expansion? In order to grasp the domain expansion Benevolent Shrine, let me start from the beginning, starting with the words benevolence and malevolence, which represent the contrasting personalities between Yuji and Sukuna. Yuji represents goodwill, kindness, and a desire to do good for others, while Sukuna does pretty much the opposite, has caused havoc and suffering. This connects to suggest that Sukuna's malevolent shrine is a manifestation of his chaotic nature. This means that if Yuji were to inherit this technique, his domain might manifest as a different representation of his kind and compassionate personality in the form of the benevolent shrine. So based on this concept, curse techniques would not only be inherited, but also be the representation of your character, your preferences, and your passions. But what if these principles only apply in special or unique cases, such as when humans are forcibly transformed into sorcerers like Higuruma? I mean, just take a look at his curse technique. It's related to law, since he's an attorney. Or other cases like when a human consumes cursed objects like Yuji Tadori. So, is a person's curse technique truly influenced by their professional interests? These are just pure speculations, yes, but don't they make sense with the evidence? What do you think? Comment, I might reply. So what is or would be a benevolent shrine that Yuji's going to learn? Now before I answer that, subscribe! Since Jujutsu Kaisen draws a strong inspiration from Buddhism, let's go deeper into the religion to give you the origin story, because then you will truly understand where benevolent and malevolent shrine really come from. Let's start with the original technique, malevolent shrine. It's theorized to be based on the concept of Naraka, which is hell in Buddhism or Buddhist hell. Both Naraka and malevolent shrine depict themes of suffering and pain. In the malevolent shrine, there's a lot of cutting and slashing, which is identical to the 8 hot narakas in Buddhism. Side note, there are 2 types of narakas or hells, hot hells and cold hells. Yeah, Buddhism is deep. Now going a level deeper, after researching, I found that there are 8 levels of hell that are hot and 8 levels of hell that are cold in Buddhism, meaning that each level gets progressively rougher, harder, and excruciatingly painful and worse. Since the 8 levels of cold hell don't have any comparison with Sukuna's malevolent shrine in our theory, let's shift our focus to the 8 levels of hot hell, so you can truly grasp how brilliant Gege Akutami really is. The first level of hot hell is Sanjiva, also known as the reviving Naraka, which has a ground made of scorching iron, heated by a massive fire. Beings here constantly live in fear and misery. They also attack each other with iron claws, and the Hell Guards use fiery weapons to torture them. Don't forget, this is just level 1 by the way. To top it off, when these people die from these attacks, they come back to life, and the torment repeats itself. The second level is known as Kala Sutra, or the Black Thread Naraka. In this level, those who dwell here have black lines drawn upon their bodies. These lines are used as guides to cut the beings with fiery saws and sharp axes, which is similar to Sukuna's 2 types of slashing attacks. Think about it. Cleave and dismantle, both powerful techniques capable of easily cutting through anything. As for the black lines, they remind me of Sukuna's tattoos, although it was never explained why Sukuna had these tattoos. Fans theorized it's because he was considered a criminal. During the Edo period, this practice was known as irezumi-kei, or tattoo punishment. The placement of the tattoo depended on the nature of the crime. Thieves received tattoos on their arms, while murderers were marked on their heads. Side note, I think the same concept applies to Akaza from Demon Slayer. Now going back to the levels of hot hell, let me explain the third level. Samgata, the crushing Naraka. It's a place where massive rocks repeatedly crush beings into a bloody pulp. Now that's a different type of smoothie. When the rocks separate, the beings are revived and the cycle repeats again. The fourth level, Raurava, aka the Screaming Naraka. Wow, that sounds scary already. A place where beings desperately run around, trying to escape the scorching ground. When they think they've found shelter, they end up being trapped inside the shelter, surrounded by flames as their screams echo within. Level 5, Maharaurava, or the Great Screaming Naraka, Maha meaning great. It's a place of punishment similar to Raurava, but for those who harmed others to sustain themselves on earth. Here they're tormented by Kravyada, an animal that eats their flesh. The sixth level, Tapana, is the Heating Naraka, where beings are pierced by fiery spears until flames come out their noses and mouths. Wow, that's spicy. For the seventh level, Pratapana, also known as the Great Heating Naraka, the same torture is used, similar to the sixth level. However, instead of fiery spears, beings are pierced more severely with a trident. What? Trident? Damn. Now doesn't that sound like one of Sukuna's curse tools? Which looks exactly like a trident? In the last and eighth stage of Hot Hell, Avicii, also known as the Uninterrupted Naraka, beings are roasted with a massive blazing oven. Sounds familiar. If you know, you know. So do these levels remind you of Sukuna's curse techniques at all? All this dismemberment and fire in these levels, isn't this a little similar to Cleave and Dismantle and the Fuga technique he used against Jogo? It could be a bit of a stretch, but would you disagree that Malevolent Shrine was derived from Buddhism? Anyways, now that you have an idea about Sukuna and all the bad karma consequences in Buddhism, it's time to talk about where Yuji's technique originates from. The juicy part. And before the juicy part, I need you to subscribe. Do it! You've made it this far. So where does Yuji's technique come from? Well, aside from hell or Naraka, Buddhism also has another concept you might be familiar with. Rebirth or reincarnation. And because Buddhism believes in karma, it talks about people with good karma being able to be born in higher or better dimensions, including something called a pure land, or Vishuddha Buddha Kshetra, a magical place or dimension where after being reborn, one can achieve the ultimate glory, nirvana. In line with these spiritual dimensions, it's worth considering whether Yuji may have a technique associated with the Buddhist heaven, Saga. So unlike Sukuna's domain causing pain or total destruction, what if Yuji's domain allows him to reconstruct or heal everything that Sukuna has destroyed? A technique that can take away pain and also heal the soul. A technique that could be rightly named Benevolent Shrine or Heavenly Shrine. Now earlier at the start of the video I mentioned that there's an interesting pattern between Mahito and Yuji that adds more weight and credibility to this theory. Here it is. Since Yuji has the power to interact with the soul, this is probably the reason why Mahito and Yuji are like two sides of the same coin. Let me explain. For Mahito, he doesn't care about how many people he kills. He enjoys toying with their souls and twisting them into mindless beasts. For him, life has no weight or particular value. It has no meaning. Mahito only wanted to find his true essence of his own soul. On the flip side, there's Yuji. His belief lies in the immense value of life, and his goal is to save as many people as he can. But despite their opposing actions, they find themselves on a similar path. The only difference being, Mahito kills humans and Yuji kills curses. So if you think that's crazy, then subscribe now so you can get a notification for the next video. Mahito possesses the soul manipulation technique, enabling him to harm souls. If you think about it, Yuji's technique could also be the same as soul manipulation, but instead of harming the soul, Yuji saves them. By the way, I just had a crazy side note. What if this ability might even allow Yuji to save Megumi? Thinking about it, Yuji can easily handle this technique since according to Mahito, Itadori has already learned how to perceive the shape of the soul. Plus, all thanks to Yuki's record of soul research, Yuji might have already improved his understanding of the soul further. With this knowledge in hand, Yuji can also combine it with another ability, the soul swap technique. Now, considering the soul swap technique, the Benevolent Shrine might also be the reason why Yuji can damage souls and recover quickly. If you remember, the only way someone could damage or hurt Mahito was if they were able to deal damage to his soul. So because of Yuji's unique talent and ability to touch souls, could also be the reason why he can switch souls and perhaps, maybe soon, even free a soul from another body. But here's a plot twist. What if there's a different possibility with Yuji? A more negative possibility. What if there's a chance that Yuji Itadori is not a nice guy, but is a monster? A threat that was manufactured by someone to annihilate millions of lives. A being of pure chaos.